Today we're talking about the show Ratched and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But that's why I've got my lovely 1940s style shirt on. Yeah. So Ratched is a prequel to the movie, well, the book, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I will get into spoilers because I kind of need to rant about what I just watched. So the first episode has music really reminiscent of Psycho. Like, it sounds like they straight up Xeroxed some of the musical themes. But really throughout the whole series, it seems to pick up on those musical cues. The costumes and hair are quite pretty. They did a good job on those. It's really all I can say that's complimentary. Here we get into the ranty part. Honestly, I felt the show was more along the lines of Mel Brooks's High Anxiety more than anything else. I also feel like I'm insulting Mel Brooks there, so I'm sorry, Mr. Brooks. I did not mean it. There's a character named Nurse Bucket, and she is straight up a clone of Nurse Diesel, who was played by Cloris Leachman in that film. I highly suggest finding High Anxiety and saving yourself from this series. Can you tell how I felt about it? Just one little nitpick is Ratched, at least in the book, was born in Salem, Oregon. And then the movie's in Salem, Oregon. This whole show takes place in Southern California and never makes any mention of it. At one point they say that she's in foster care, and it shows her being in foster care in California, and it's like, why would she be in Californian foster care system rather than an Oregonian one? Just saying. I just feel like everything in the show is stupid. I do understand inclusivity for minorities and LGBTQ, but that inclusivity shouldn't be at the cost of reality of what those people had to endure historically. I mean, it takes place in a historical period. You should be more accurate to the hardships they had to overcome. For example, the head doctor is Filipino, and they have him have a flashback to when he was getting divorced, and he talks about the reason why he has been absent from his family is that he's been treating people in the Japanese internment camps. This is during the war, at the same time that Japanese people are invading the Philippines. Like, it stretches credulity. And then later he changes his name and to a more Anglicanized name, if you will, and it's just like, I feel like people would have questioned that more. Also, most Americans would have simply seen him as Japanese. They wouldn't have made the differentiation that, oh, he's Filipino, he's actually an ally. Let's be honest. Around World War II, there was racism. It existed. Another smaller point, but if any of you guys know of specifically a Filipino doctor who helped Japanese people at the internment camps, please let me know in the comments. I appreciate learning things. So, it just, especially a Filipino psychiatrist, it seemed very weirdly niche. Anyways, Also, there was a Italian patient in the mental hospital who speaks like no English. He understands it fine, but he doesn't speak it. Like even simple words like yes, he still says see, and I'm like, how can you understand it but you don't know yes? But also that he's, like that kind of fresh off the boat, and somehow his family has enough money to afford to treat him. Also, I kind of feel like the show wallows a bit in the like lesbians are evil kind of trope for Ratched herself. Something that was never discussed or hinted at in the film. I don't know about the book. I haven't read the original book of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where her character derives. The hospital is, yeah, I'm just getting nitpicky. The hospital in the story is an old health spa, but is now a state hospital, and yet has all brand new 1940s furnishings and decorations. Also, I mean, it just seems like, why wouldn't you have the same decorations from when it was built in the 20s? Like the wallpaper, like the chairs, everything are like peak 1940s Art Deco. This film seems to fundamentally not understand how a state hospital would function. Like, could you guys get a consultant or a historian? I just feel like they watched Alfred Hitchcock's Spellbound, and that was all the research they did. Also, again, spoilers. At one point, Ratched herself reveals she faked her like nurse's certifications so she could serve during the war, in a flashback. And she did this because she was poor and had no education. So, personal experience, well, not my personal experience, but familial experience. My grandmother was one of 8 children born of subsistence farmers in Iowa. She dropped out of school when she was 16 and moved out to California, where eventually she took a 6-month course to become a nurse. So it was not barred to people through lack of funds or lack of education. Like, clearly, it was not this big hurdle like they are making it out to be in the show. It's just, again, could you guys have done a little bit of research? They needed nurses. Nurses were trained. You might not have been, like, much better than an orderly, but if you wanted to help the war effort, it wasn't that big of a hurdle. And then the biggest stupid part, in my opinion, it was so easy to Google the correct information. There's 2 characters talking about someone getting executed by lethal injection. This is the 1940s, the late 1940s. The first lethal injection in the state of California was in 1996. 50 goddamn years later. Like, Google is available to you guys. At the very least, bare minimum, Google. Why aren't you using it? Also, like, the same guy who they were talking about getting executed, he had been deemed fit to stand trial, like, mentally stable enough to stand trial, but he's still being housed at the asylum, and that's where they're going to take him from there to be executed. It's like, no, you would be put back in a prison. You wouldn't just be left in this sketchy hospital that you already escaped from once. Oh, also they have a dance with patients, including the guy they know murdered 4 people. Like, suspension of disbelief is one thing. This is just stupid. It is stupid on every level. I will admit, it is from the same show creators as the American Horror Story series. I haven't really gotten into that series. I've only seen a couple odd episodes, but this does not give me any faith in that series. It is so dumb on every single level. Okay, just palate cleanser. So as a reward of getting through that malarkey, I watched One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Here, Louise Fletcher portrays Nurse Ratched, and she is perfect in the role. She won an Oscar for it. You Trekkies out there might recognize her as Kai Wynn from Deep Space Nine, where she kind of played a similar character. Power hungry or power mad person who's not really good about like pitying people. Yeah, that kind of stuff. I also feel like her portrayal is in stark contrast to the show. Like, these don't seem like the same person at all. Here, Nurse Ratched is officious and pitiless. In the show, she's a sociopath, but she has a soft spot for some. Like, she'll help some people out. She helps some people escape the asylum. I just never get... it's just totally divorced from the source material. Also, just want to say a fun fact, Louise Fletcher, during her acceptance speech for the Oscars, she used sign language, I can talk, to specifically thank her parents, who were hard of hearing. So, like, that's really cool note. It also won, like, Best Picture, Best Actor, like, all the awards, Best Director. Yeah, it was filmed in the real state hospital here in Salem, Oregon. The original book apparently was just set at an asylum in Oregon. They didn't specify the state hospital. And some of the extras were real patients. They got, like, everybody's permission, and some were even consultants on the film. Like, there was a guy with a terrible stutter who helped as a consultant, and it actually working with the filmmakers gave him enough confidence that he was able to, like, reintegrate into society, and he lost his stutter because of the filmmakers, like, being so respectful to him. Yeah, there's real doctors, real psychiatrists in this film, which I also feel that this other show didn't talk to any real psychiatrists. There's a video about how they get multiple personalities or dissociative disorder wrong, which I haven't watched yet, but I will link to down there. But yeah, I'm going to say save yourself some time. Don't watch Ratched. Just watch One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And maybe, if you feel like it, watch Mel Brooks' High Anxiety, because it's 2 hours well spent as opposed to almost 8 ill spent. But yeah, happy watching. See you later.